Hi everyone, my name is Laura Christine Sines and you're watching Live Vegan Vibrantly, how to easily eat your way to a younger, healthier, happier you. Today I have the absolute honor and privilege to interview James Aspey. He is a vegan animal rights activist from Sydney, Australia. And in 2014, he embarked on an unprecedented and life-changing challenge. James took a 365-day vow of silence to raise animal awareness and promote peace over violence. He did this while traveling around Australia and cycling 5,000 kilometers from Darwin to Sydney. His campaign is called Voiceless 365. Then he ended his vow with a powerful animal rights message. Live on Australia's most popular morning TV show, Sunrise, and he is currently traveling to schools and events, giving talks and sharing his inspirational story. So without further ado, everyone, please welcome James. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hi Laura, thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Of course, I am so honored.
Me too.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and tell everyone, if you wouldn't mind, please, how you started your vegan journey, and then what was this idea that you had to travel around the world and promote no speaking and being that voice for the animals through silence?
Okay, well, my vegan journey started only a couple of years ago. I was working on a cruise ship as the health coach, so doing the classes and doing all the seminars. And someone came into the gym one day. It was a very wise, old Indian man who talked kind of like the Buddha. Like he connected the dots in the universe, and was just very intelligent. And I really enjoyed talking to him because he was kind of, he was kind of a trippy guy. And we spoke every day for about 2 weeks. And on the last day, he told me eating animals is bad karma. And I thought, probably is. You're probably right. But I was under the impression that we need to eat animals to survive, because I'd been a personal trainer for 9 years, and someone right at the start of my career told me that's what you need. There's no such thing as a healthy vegetarian. And I believed it 100%. I never even looked into it because I respected that man. Mm-hmm. So when this guy said eating animals is bad karma, I thought, well, yeah, but we have to do it, so what do you do? But I thought, oh, you've been pretty spot on though. Maybe I'll just go vegetarian for a week just as an experiment and see how I feel. Mm-hmm. And a few days in, because I used to eat plates of meat, I used to 3 times a day, like I would eat so much, there'd be so much animal on my plate. Mm-hmm. And so 3 days in, it wasn't surprising that I felt so much better, which shocked me though, because, it's not surprising now, I know what I know, but it shocked me at the time because I thought I'd be, lethargic and, I don't know, dying half dead or something after a few days of not eating meat. It was only meat, I was just vegetarian at the time. But because I felt so good, I knew I had to look into it. I knew there was something there. So I started researching, and it just blew my mind about the health benefits of cutting flesh from your diet.
Yeah.
I had no idea that there were benefits and that it was better. You're reducing a chance of diabetes and heart disease and cancer and obesity and all these lifestyle diseases. And I just was shocked, but I thought, great, wow, I can feel this good and it's healthy. Wow, it totally blew my mind. And so, but I wanted to keep researching to make sure, because it was so out of my reality and what I've been teaching people for years. Mm. And so I researched more and more and more, just got more convinced because there's just so much information out there in favor of cutting animal products from your diet. And during that time, so before that, mm-hmm. I'd seen slaughterhouse footage and things like that, but I could not actually feel for the animals. There was no empathy. There was no actual feel for their suffering. Part of that, I think, was because I thought it had to happen anyway, so perhaps I just didn't let myself feel. But the other part of that, there's a good quote out there that says, "The eating of meat extinguishes the seed of great compassion." And I think that's what has happened to me. And I think that's what happens to a lot of people.
Yeah.
You can't feel like compassion for these animals while you're paying people to mutilate and torture and murder them.
Yeah.
It's like too much of a conflict. And so I couldn't feel, I'd seen stuff before in a couple of documentaries, but while I was researching the health benefits, and I hadn't eaten meat for a little while now, like a week or whatever, and then I started seeing the footage again, and I started thinking, whoa, like I could feel it. And I was like, I'm not okay with this. I'm actually not okay with this at all. I try to be a peaceful, loving, helpful person. Like my job's to help people feel better and feel good. And although I didn't have much care for animals, I could still see that this was not in alignment with being being a person who doesn't want to harm others.
Mhm.
And and I just when that happened, when I saw it again and I felt like that, it was like I had a whole new reason to stay vegetarian, and it was a far more significant reason than the health benefits, than the personal health benefits.
Mhm.
And I was still unaware of dairy and eggs and the other horrors that happen, the ways animals are exploited.
Mhm.
I kept researching. I kept looking into things. I saw I saw documentaries like Earthlings, and Forks Over Knives, and a couple of other things.
Mhm.
And I started becoming a real strong vegetarian advocate. I
Yeah.
was telling everyone to go vegetarian. And I was like, what are you talking about? You've been telling me to eat so much meat for all the years we've been training. And I'm like, nah, I was wrong. I'm sorry. I was wrong. You're harming yourself. You're harming others. It's all about vegetarian.
Mhm.
And that's what was happening. Then I kind of knew somewhere in my mind that eating dairy and eggs was wrong. I'd seen it on Earthlings and that, but it hadn't fully connected with me yet because, it's so obvious that if you see a hunk of flesh on your plate that has been cut off an animal, it's obvious that someone has been harmed very badly. And eggs and milk, there's no trace of cruelty there that you can physically see. There's no blood, you can't see the pain like that they've obviously gone through. So it took a while to connect those dots. But what happened was after I got off the cruise ship, I booked in because this man who was so wise, I'm like, how do you know all this stuff? And he said, oh, meditation. And I'm like, yeah, no, but what books have you read? And like, tell me a book to read. And he's like, just meditation. And I was like, all right, I'll get into it. So I'd already done a little bit in the past, but I'd heard about this 10-day silent meditation you could do called Vipassana.
Mhm.
So I booked that just after I met this man. And as soon as I got off the cruise ship, I was pretty much straight into the Vipassana. And I did this Vipassana. This is a 10-day silent meditation. You meditate about 10 or 11 hours a day for 10 days. It's a total life changer. It's totally hard though as well to sit still like that, but it's really amazing. And on the fifth day there, I had this thought. I was like, well, actually, I had this sensation come over me. It was this really powerful, like strong thing, and the technique's all about observing your sensations. So this like really powerful, like weird energies come over me. And I'm thinking, what's going on here? What is this? And yeah, it was really, I was like, oh, it's like uncomfortable. And then as it passed, I thought, I think that was my body like trying to get me to talk. I haven't spoken in 5 days. So it's like, talk. And I'm like, I'm not talking here. And I try to kind of just feel it and see what was going on. And then that got me thinking, how good is this? I haven't spoken in 5 days. I've never done this before. How long could someone keep this up? And I thought, oh, imagine not speaking for a year. And I was like, wow, that would be epic. Like it would be crazy, but I reckon that'd be probably pretty good as well. And it might get some benefits, in whatever ways. And I just thought, yeah, it immediately resonated with me, the idea. It was like, it was a little bit crazy, it was out of my comfort zone. I just thought, oh, this is kind of a cool idea. And then I thought, but why, how could you do it? Like, how could you pull this off? Everyone's going to say you're nuts if you just go, I'm not going to talk through you. And then I realized, whoa, you could do it for something you're passionate about. You could do it for a cause. And I was like, bingo. And the only cause I was passionate about at the time was animals. It was a new passion. As soon as I woke up to it, I was like, vegetarianism's biggest advocate. I was telling everyone. It was instant. And so it was like I'd woken up from a deep, long sleep. I was like, why can't everyone else see this? Everyone else needs to see this too. This is horrific. And then I was telling my cousin about it about a month later, and she goes, What's this Bow Sciencey thing you're talking about? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do this thing. It's going to be for animals. And I was telling her while I was eating a piece of cheese. And at that moment, it just clicked that being vegetarian is not enough. Like, it's great not to eat flesh, but what I'd actually done is replace the flesh with extra dairy, like extra cheese and extra eggs.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't even contributing to less suffering necessarily. I just moved the suffering from these animals to the other animals.
Yeah.
And so, you know what I mean? So being vegetarian didn't even mean I was causing less suffering. I was consuming different animal products instead. Mm-hmm. And I just realized, what am I doing? I'm eating cheese. A couple of flashbacks to what happens to the dairy cows, to the mothers and their babies getting taken away and killed, and the forcible impregnation and all the stuff. And I just went, I'm being such a hypocrite here. I'm saying I'm against animal cruelty. I'm going to do a year of silence for animals, and I'm still going to eat cheese. This can't happen. I need to go vegan. I know vegan it's consistent. It's all animal exploitation is wrong. All animal use is wrong. Consuming any animal products is wrong. If you believe it's wrong to cause unnecessary harm to these beings, which I do. And so I was like, whoa, I'm going to go vegan? Oh, how did this happen to me? How did this happen? But you know what? Like, because I'd always thought, vegans, man, they are crazy. They're extreme. Like, vegetarians, I can be down with that. But cut it all out? What? But in that moment, at the same time, I thought, none of those old beliefs about veganism, none of those old beliefs about veganism being extreme made any sense to me anymore. The only thing that, what seems so extreme to me in that moment and still to this day is claiming to love animals, or that you're a peaceful person, or that you're against violence, which almost every single person is. Like, that's a core value of almost every single human. We don't want to hurt others. Mm-hmm. So it's what seemed extreme is claiming to be that kind of person, or being that kind of person, and not being vegan, while still paying people to do horrific things to animals, murder these innocent beings, just for a fleeting moment of palate pleasure. It's not for any necessity. It's not for health. You're likely far healthier without the animal products. So that's what seemed extremely extreme to me in that moment. And then I was like, yep, I'm vegan. And it took a little bit of time to really get it, because I was heavily addicted to ice cream. Really, I feel like I was heavily addicted to it. I don't know if it was the sugar or the dairy, but I just couldn't seem to get away from it. Mm-hmm. And then, like, my saving grace, I really tried, and I'd go well for a few weeks, but then, it was just it took time. And then I didn't have any vegans around. I didn't know any other vegans for support or anything. And then, but they're all excuses. I should have just stopped. But anyway, and so then I learned you can freeze bananas and put them in a blender with a little bit of almond milk and blend it, and it's ice cream, and it's healthy, and it's delicious, and it's like quick. And I was just like saved. And now I think of the idea of eating any animal product, and it would just never happen. It just makes me sick to the stomach. Just the thought of, because there's always a victim. There's always a victim every time you purchase an animal product. There's a victim, and it's just not worth it. Not even close. Yeah. So that's kind of what happened. I spent the rest of that year planning my vow of silence, Voiceless 365, and as the clock struck midnight for the beginning of 2014, that's when my silence began, and I spent that whole year in silence, traveling around the country, promoting veganism, writing a blog about my journey, and just doing it. So that's what I did.
Amazing. And I know that you did an interview with Freelee, the Banana Girl. And I just, for people who haven't seen it yet, because I want to talk to you about some other things too, but would you mind telling us like what that experience was like for you? Like how, was it difficult for you to not speak? And, how did you end up communicating and getting
Uh-huh.
around? And just if you wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit about that too.
Yeah, yeah. The interview with her was really fun. She's a really beautiful person, which I was surprised about because so many people I noticed on the internet hate her for different
I don't
reasons.
know
But
why.
she's actually a really beautiful person.
Yeah.
Anyway, and so with the vowel sciences are hard. Yes, it was very hard. I actually really didn't enjoy it very much at all. I enjoyed it for the first month or so because it was a novelty. Like, yeah, I'm doing this thing, and it was really, especially at first, it was very hard to remember to remain silent
Mm.
because it's just, like you wake up for a new day and it's just not in your head yet that you're taking a vow of silence. Like you're not allowed to talk today. So there was a couple of mistakes I made at the start where I'd wake up, I'd stretch, I'd look at a mate, and I'm like, "What's up, man?" And I was just, but that happened about throughout the whole year about 6 times where I made mistakes. There was another time where I'd fallen asleep at an airport. And I was the last, like the plane was about to leave, and someone come up to me and they're like, "James, your plane's about to leave." And I woke up, I was so tired. I'm like, sorry, where am I going? What's happening? And I started walking. I'm like, oh, I just spoke. Oh no. Um, so it was really, I had to write notes all over the place in the first months. Like after that, I kind of got good at it and used to it. But the challenge was like the way I communicated was through writing notes. And then after a little while, I realized that if I would, people could kind of lip read me. Some people were just like, huh? Like some people could lip read. And so that was like a lot easier for me because it takes a long time to always be writing everything.
Mm.
But on the positive, writing things means people are really going to read it. So if someone goes, "Why are you doing this thing, man?" I'll give them my business card, which says I'm taking a 365-day vow of silence to raise awareness for animals and promote peace over violence. And they go, "I love animals, mate. Like, good, that's awesome." And knowing the statistics of how many people aren't vegan, I'd obviously think, well, you love animals and you're probably not vegan. So I wanted to have a conversation about that. But I'd write that down. I'd write, "Do you eat animals?" or something like this. And but it's great because they'd have to read it, and it also takes the emotion out of it. Which at the time I was still a little bit of a angry vegan, like coming to terms with what was happening on this planet and what kind of almost everyone's involved in. Um, you go through a stage. I think most vegans do where it angers you, and you find it very frustrating when people don't get it, which is just normal. But so that's how I communicated. People would read my lips, or I'd do like crazy body language, like try to explain what I was talking about, like playing charades all year, basically, which is good if you like charades, but you get a bit over it. And then in the second half of the year, I actually really started to get over it. I was like learning more and more and more, so I had more and more I wanted to tell people when I'd meet them, and it was just getting more. It was a long time, like it was a long time not to talk. So got really, really quite frustrating, and it was almost a blessing in disguise. My van that I was traveling and living in, that broke down in the middle of nowhere in WA in Western Australia. So I had to abandon it completely and hitchhike. I hitchhiked 2,000 kilometers
Wow.
without talking. And people pick up hitchhikers wanting to have a chat, and I'm like, sorry. And so then I hitchhiked to Darwin, and I bought a bike there, like a push bike to cycle. And I ended up cycling from Darwin to Sydney, like you said, the 5,000 kilometers. And that was actually a blessing in disguise because I didn't have to talk to people as much.
Mm.
So I kind of gave me some time just to really learn. Like I listened to a lot of lectures and audio books and things like that, and gave me a lot of time to just further my understanding of veganism and animal rights, and how to be a good advocate. And yeah, and so that was good. Like a good way to finish because I was getting totally sick of playing charades. And yeah, so that's how it was. It was good, and it had its good moments, and it was funny sometimes when people would like, they think I'd said something that I hadn't said.
Mm.
They're like, "Did you say this?" And I'd be thinking, "No, I didn't." But that is actually a way better idea. Like, so sometimes it would work in your favor. But yeah, it was a good experience. All up. I just don't think I'd rush into it again anytime soon. Mm.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your journey and how difficult that really is because we use our voice so much, to really like communicate and
Oh yeah.
form relationships and bonds with people. So I just want to share with the audience because I think it's really interesting and nobody's really shared or talked about this yet. But so James and I were talking, before the interview started, and I was sharing with him that since I've been creating this summit and bringing everyone together, there was a point where I was practicing yoga on my own, and there was this like surge, this huge wave that just entered into my entire being. And it was like I felt every single pain and murder or just, I don't, suffering or and abuse from every single animal on the planet. And I was like, I know that sounds so crazy, but it was like it was like I felt all of them, I heard all of them, and this is why I'm doing this. And then he shared with me, I did too. So I just want for everyone to know kind of what your experience is with that, and why do you think that that happened, and
That's a good question.
how'd you handle it?
Okay, so I haven't told you the story about. All right, so this is what happened, and this is something I haven't shared publicly. I told a couple of friends, but anyway.
Me neither.
Um, okay, cool. All right, well. Okay, so what happened was, I was staying at my mum's house,
Mhm.
and I'd woken up the next day, and I had like these ideas for what to. This is like maybe 2 months ago, and I had like I had these like ideas for activism and just some stuff. And I said, Mom, like, I've got these ideas. Like, this is going to be hectic. It's going to be really good for animals, I think. And she was kind of like, she was being a mum, and I think she was a bit worried about me because, this has become a huge portion of my life. I used to really value my own fun. Like, fun was number one kind of thing for me. And that took a huge back seat. Obviously, last year I did the whole vow of silence, and it was all about animal rights, all about veganism, and it has been all year since, every single day, almost every single moment, which is fine by me. Like, I want to be of service because that's what they need. Like, they need a strong voice, and they need everyone to do as much as they can. That's more
Yes.
important to me than, like, I'm living a really cushy life. I've got food in my stomach every day. I've got somewhere to sleep every day.
Mm,
So I'm not really interested in improving my happiness a little bit. I'm happy enough. There's
mm,
other beings we're sharing this planet with that are suffering immensely. You can't even begin to understand it. I want to help them. That will make me more happy. So I'm telling her all this stuff. I want to do this. Is going to, and she's like, I'm worried about you. This is all you talk like. This is all you think about. You don't really go surfing much anymore. You don't really go to the gym much anymore. And I'm like, I know, but I feel like this is what they need. And
mhm,
she just said, don't you find it depressing? Isn't it depressing thinking about this? She's a vegan, like she gets it. So she's like,
mhm,
isn't it depressing thinking about this all the time?
mhm, mhm,
I just stopped and I went, yeah, it is depressing. And something happened. I just thought about it for a second because you just get caught up in doing things. Like sometimes you just forget to think about what's really happening.
mhm.
And I started laughing, and Mum goes, "Why are you laughing?" And I go, "I think I'm about to cry." And it was funny to me because till that moment, I had not cried in over 10 years.
Wow.
I have not cried, maybe longer, like maybe close to 15 years. There's been one, I had cancer when I was 17. I shed about 5 or 6 tears at one point in that once that I remember. I don't think there was any other times. It was a bit of a hazy time. But It's the only time I remember crying was once then. That was 11 years ago. There's not been anything since then. And so I had that, you get the lump and all those like things when you're about to cry.
Yeah.
And I was like, I started laughing. I'm like, I think I'm about to cry. It was just so foreign, but I remembered the feeling.
Uh-huh.
And she's like, what? I'm like, oh, good chat, Mum. I was saying. And I went downstairs and I just went to bed and I just pulled the blanket over my head. Like I was like, shit, I'm about to cry. Like, oh my God. Like it was just so weird. And I lied there and I just kind of started sobbing a bit. And I was really just sad for the animals. And I could feel, it felt like, at first I was just sobbing, but then it got a little bit more heavy and I was just thinking about like, I was just imagining them in their, the pigs in their cages and the cows being like lined up, ready to get their throats slit. And I was just thinking about it all. And it was really upsetting me. And then I think like one of the most frustrating things is how easily preventable it is. Like all everyone needs to do is go vegan. It's so easy to go vegan. You don't even have to hardly do anything. Like you just make a few minor changes, mainly to your diet. You still almost eat the same. You still drink milk. You still eat cheese if you want. You can just eat the vegan version. Like it's just so minor. But what it can do is just reduce suffering and murder to 1.5 trillion beings every year. Like it's just so easy and worth it. But anyway, and I was so and I had this feeling like I didn't feel like I was crying alone. I felt like they were crying with me, and it was just this understanding that we were all crying and just together. It was a really strange feeling actually.
Yeah.
And then my mum came down and she's like, puts her hand on me, she goes, "Sorry, I didn't mean to upset you." And I'm just like lost. I'm like, "It's not that, Mum. Like, I'm upset for them." And then I lost it. Like I started bawling. I can't remember the last time I bawled. And I was just like really, really, really emotional, really, really, really upset. And just feeling like the animals were crying with me. And then yeah, that went on a while and that was kind of what happened. So it was, yeah, and I haven't cried since or anything like that, but it just really made me realize, how important, well, not how important it is to me, but just, I don't know, it's hard to describe. Like, I guess, like I said earlier, everything else has taken a back seat for me, and that's because it is so important, what's happening. It's not something we don't have any control over, what's happening to animals. It's the one of the only things we have control over. I can't do anything about the war. I can't do anything about, like um, starving children in a country, even though like veganism does help that. But I can't give someone food or water today. But I can stop purchasing products that are made from animals that were tortured and murdered, and I can do that 3 times a day. Eat something else.
Yeah.
And then there's all the products now, but it's something we have control over. It's the only thing we have control over, like when it comes to the big stuff. And if we all just did that, like the world would change in so many ways. So it's just massively frustrating, but I get it as well because we've all been brought up into this world, conditioned from day one. Eat animals, love these animals, eat these animals, but don't think about it too much, and don't just look at the milk carton if you want to know where they come from. They come from a nice, happy place, a nice, beautiful green pasture. If you want to know more, don't really ask questions. Don't think, just eat it. That's why it's, like I think it's Paul McCartney said, if slaughterhouse walls, what is it? If the walls of something like if the walls of a slaughterhouse were made of glass,
Yeah.
everyone would be a vegetarian. And then I saw a really cool other quote that said, if the walls of a dairy farm were made of glass, every vegetarian would be a vegan. And that's spot on.
It's true, because I don't think people realize the amount of cruelty, abuse, and murder that still goes on with dairy, the milk and the eggs.
Mm-hmm.
A couple things that I wanted to um, comment on your experience, though, is that we are all one. And I think that was maybe one of your realizations. And that we're all connected. And
Mm.
I don't know if everybody realizes that yet. People are certainly waking up, and some people do realize it, or maybe they just don't care. And then there was another, oh, yes. So another interview that I did with John Joseph McGowan, he reads the Bhagavad Gita daily.
Hmm. Hmm. Oh, cool.
And in those teachings, they say when we stop murdering and killing animals, there will no longer be war.
Hmm.
Because there's a tremendous amount of compassion, I think, and understanding and patience and peace that comes with eating plants, because the demeanor changes. We don't have the added animal hormones, testosterone, and adrenaline that
Mm.
comes in when they are being like constantly tortured, abused, and deprived when they are alive. And then when they go to slaughter, I mean, people don't even realize that the pigs scream. They
Mm.
have footage of that. Pigs have an intelligence level of a 5-year-old. So it's like, think about it.
Yeah.
Like people get that. But your last point, I apologize. I can't quite remember um, what you said. But I'm sorry. Could you remind me real quick?
The last thing I said, I think, was that the slaughterhouse was made
Yes.
of glass. Yeah. Is that what
Yes.
you were going
Can you please,
to say?
tell us why, if even the dairy farms, if they were made of glass, why the
Yeah.
vegetarians would go vegan?
I hope they would. Well, it's there's likely more cruelty in a glass of milk than in a big piece of meat. Um, in a dairy farm, for example, the females are forcibly impregnated, which is rape. They've got their arms stuck right into them, and then they injected semen into them. Because they, like every other mammal, they need to be pregnant to produce milk.
Yeah.
So that's the milk we want to steal. So we need them to be pregnant. They have a baby. If the baby is a boy, well, all the babies are taken away
Yeah.
very soon after birth, which is a tremendous, a tremendous pain for both the baby and the mother.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine separating human baby from her mother. They bellow for days very regularly.
Yeah.
A lot of the mother cows, and there's a lot of stories about them keep going back to the same spot where they saw their calf last. They're it's a motherly instinct, and so it's so for that alone, like they're separating, they're stealing the babies. If the babies are males, they're not going to produce any milk. They're seen as a waste product of the dairy industry, and these baby boys will be sent to slaughter almost immediately. And in the slaughterhouse, they have, the humane way to kill an animal is to shoot them in the head with a bolt that goes into their brain, and then to slit their throat. So they're still conscious. They're supposed to be rendered unconscious. Often the bolt to the brain, if that's not bad, like if they do it a little bit wrong, they're still conscious. Slit their throat and just let them bleed out. Like humane. Humane means to show compassion. That's not how I show my friends and family compassion. And so that's what happens to all the male calves because they're deemed useless. The male girls, they'll have the same fate as their mother, constantly impregnated, constantly pregnant, have their babies taken from them, used as milk machines, hooked up to painful machines that often cause infections like mastitis, big artery infections,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll be worked and worked and worked, pregnant, have baby, milk, 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 for years, for about 6 years, generally 4 to 6 years,
Yeah.
and the life of a cow how long they could live for if they weren't so overworked and used like machines would be more like 20, 22, 25, some cows years.
Yeah.
So it's a fraction of their life. We're doing this to infants, like we're doing this to children. That's the age of these animals. All the animals we torture and mutilate and kill for food and for other, the other things we need. We want, not need. It's definitely not a need. The other things that we need that we want animal products for.
Yeah.
So that's what happens in the dairy industry. It's just as bad in the egg industry. All the male chicks, they are they can't produce eggs, so they're sent into a macerator, which is like a big blender, and that just blends them up. But it's not even the way that they're treated. It's that we're using them at all
Yeah.
because some people say, well, I get my meat from this great farm, and they give them belly scratches every day, and it's a beautiful place. Well, you can, for one, you'll never escape the murder that happens. You'll never escape the unprovoked murder, the unnecessary killing of these innocent beings to get those products. But also, we shouldn't be using animals at all. They're not here for us. Just because they're a little bit different from us doesn't mean anything. Like earlier you said we're all one. Well, what I realized last year, which I did not know, is that humans are animals. I didn't really ever grasp that concept. I don't know. I always thought they're animals and humans are humans, and there's a total different, like there's a separation there.
Right.
There's not. We are all the same. We all have a heart. We all have a brain. We all have eyes and lungs, and
Yeah.
families and communities and things we like and things we don't like. And we eat food and we sleep and like we do everything the same.
Yeah.
What's the difference? What is the actual difference? That they don't speak our language? We know that they're suffering when they're screaming and crying, just like any human would.
Yeah.
We know what they're going through. We just pretend, oh, it doesn't matter. They're not like us. We're species. Like it's a speciesist world where it used to be, racism used to be so prevalent where white people they thought they knew that people with black skin were inferior to them. And they thought that gave them the that gave them reason enough to enslave them and to actually have human slaves. Like that wasn't even long ago. It was 50 or so years ago. And so, now it's like, okay, it's not about the black skin. It still happens, obviously, but there's, things have changed a lot. Now it's about they've got feathers, they've got wings, they've got scales, they've got fur. So, we can do whatever we want to them. We can enslave them. No, they're not here for us to use. They're not here for humans. They're here to live their own lives in their own way with their own families, and that's how it should be. Just like we want. We want our own freedom to live our lives in our own unique way, the way we want, without being the slave of someone else, without having our death premeditated from the day we're born, our murder premeditated from the day we're born. That's the least we can give them. Like the first thing we should do if we care about animals at all is go vegan. That's people think, oh, vegan's like the top, that's the most we can do. No, vegan's the first thing we should do. It's not hard, it's easy. Even if it was hard, it's still the first thing we should do if you take the lives of animals seriously and you think, and you respect them in any way. Because if you're not vegan, you're participating. You're not just participating. You're demanding that this continue with your money. You're demanding, saying, "I want this to continue. Here's money even to make it happen." And it's one of the most cruel and unjust, violent, and the worst thing you can imagine that these animals are going through for something we don't even need. So veganism is not the last thing we should aim for. It's the first step we should do immediately, and then we should help others do the same so that, this can spread and the torture and the killing can stop and we can enjoy a more peaceful world.
Yeah. Beautifully said. I mean, your dollar, if you're paying for the meat, the dairy, the cheese, the fish, the fur, the skin, you're paying for slavery. And I'm just going to say it and just, reiterate what you just said because it is the truth. And that's, I think, another part of, being in this plant-based lifestyle, this, people call it vegan, starch, whole food, plant-based, whatever you want to call it. It's, a non-cruel cruelty way, very compassionate and loving, and really living up to our name, which is mankind. And we are the men of the earth, and we're kind. And
Mm.
I think it was also brilliant that you said that we are all animals. Because we do. We all have, the heart, the brain, the lungs, the skin, whatever. And we all do the same thing. And, we have all of our own ways of communication. It's just like, different cultures have different languages. Well, so do animals. They all have different languages, but we all
Mm.
still know if an animal is suffering. Even in the animal kingdom, there's stories, and I'm sure that you've heard of them with, I think there was like a cheetah, and she wanted the gorilla or something. She went after like an adult, and then she didn't realize that it had a baby.
Yeah, I think it's an orangutan. Yeah, yeah, I know that
Yeah.
story.
And the cheetah like looked after the baby
Yeah,
until other orangutans were able to come and care for it. So if
yeah.
animals have that level of compassion, we need to like seriously wake up and, kind of start to let it sink in. And maybe some people, they're never going to hear the message, they don't want to, but the option is there, the education is there. And like you keep saying, it's so easy, it's so easy, it's so easy. I
Mm.
mean, yes, there's a transition period, and it helps when you have community, but there's so many of us. So what have you done to help support yourself in this community? And like, really, how has it changed your life? Um, in a good way. I know that you talked about different priorities shifting, but what is it now that you have found your purpose to be?
Okay, I just wanted to touch on one thing
Yeah, please do.
about what you just said.
Yeah.
Like you said, like it's a compassionate and loving life, and that something I just want to make clear is that you don't have to be very compassionate
Hmm.
or even be an animal lover at all. I wasn't an animal lover. You don't have to like, oh, I just love animals so much to be vegan.
Yeah.
All you have to do, all you have to agree with is that animal cruelty is wrong. Is that using animals, exploiting animals for unnecessary reasons is wrong. If you ask a room of 100 people, put your hand up if you think it's wrong to cause unnecessary harm to animals, I reckon probably all of them are going to put their hand up.
Yeah.
And it is unnecessary what we're doing. So it doesn't take a huge amount of compassion, hardly any really. All you just have to know is that you're against unnecessary harm to animals, which almost everyone is. The only rational response to that is to go vegan. Otherwise, you're going against what you say you believe in. And it's so easy to live in alignment. So that's what I just want to say about
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah. Okay. So what was your question? Sorry. What was it?
I asked you, like, what did you do as far as like having support? Because you said when you started out your journey, like, you didn't have any like vegan community or friends, and I know
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
still a lot like minimal for a lot of us. And then I guess like what kind of advice you would have for others to help them, and
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Cool.
what's
All
your
right.
passion?
Sweet. Best advice. Best advice. I think the hardest thing about being vegan is it's definitely not the food. The food's amazing. It's not getting enough vitamins now. Like, that's easy. You don't even barely have to think about it. All it is, I think the hardest thing is that every person, when they find out that you're vegan, has 20 questions for you. That's a great thing, actually. But it's a challenging thing at first if you don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
Like when at first you know it's right, it feels right in your heart, you've read it or someone's explained it, so the answers already make sense. But can you articulate it?
Hmm.
Can you articulate those answers back yourself? Not necessarily straight away. And all the questions: where do you get your protein? What about free range? What about humanely slaughtered? What would happen to all the animals if we didn't eat them?
Hmm.
You're eating their food. Is there enough food for everyone to eat on a vegan diet? Like this is the best thing about being vegan as well, because every single question has an answer. There's no argument against veganism at all. Better for our health, better for the environment, better for obviously the animals, and a whole wide range of other reasons. And there's nothing bad about it. There's no argument against it. So my best advice would be to learn all of those answers, because it's not only going to help you be more confident in talking about veganism when it gets brought up, it's going to help the person that you're talking to. Like, give them the gift of veganism too. Like, every vegan feels so grateful and happy that they've connected those dots and they've become vegan.
Mm-hmm.
Help someone else do that as well. And one of the best ways to do that is to be able to answer all those questions and give even more answers to questions they might not have even asked. And that's easy. Like, you can look up, animal rights facts and questions, and there's on Google, and there's an amazing 100-question list with all the answers. And that's what I studied when I first knew I was going to do a bioscience degree, because I didn't know anything. I was just a fresh vegetarian. But I knew I had to learn all of that if I was going to be putting myself out there for people to question me on my Facebook page during my campaign. So that I think has helped me incredibly, because it made me even stronger in my convictions. There's an answer for everything, and it's definitely the best thing to do. But it helps me help other people go vegan, and that helps animals as well. So I think that just makes you such a more confident, happy, chill vegan. You don't have to get stressed and go, damn, like, what was that answer? I don't know. And then they go, oh, see, you don't even know. And there's flaw in your argument. And that's easy. Like, you just learn the questions. That takes experience and time, but you'll get them all the time. You'll get the questions. You can read the discussions that happen on the vegan groups, and that's what I do as well. Like, now I contribute a lot more to the vegan group pages on Facebook, and, because you read it, like, so people have a question, like a new vegan might say, what about the hens, the rescue hens I've got, can I eat their eggs? And you'll see the whole discussion about that, and people's opinions. So you can learn that way, and it doesn't take very long at all. I haven't even been vegan for 2 years. So, it doesn't take long to learn all the answers. And I think that's just great. Like, and then something else, because, like I said earlier, you do go through a phase, most people, where you can become like angry about it, and you think the best way is to, like, blame people. This is what you're contributing to, like, you're wrong, or I don't think that. I did try that for a while, and if I thought it was the best, I'd probably still do that. But I don't think it's the best. I think the best way is definitely to be factual. Don't ever start on the animals by not telling the whole story. But I think you've got to as well understand that these people you're talking to, it was just like me a couple of years ago, and I'm sure just like you at some point, unless you were born vegan, which hardly any vegans were, right? So none of us knew at one point. You've just got to remember that you've got to forgive them, because they don't know what they're arguing for. They're arguing in favor of animal cruelty and suffering and killing. They don't really get it, obviously, or else they'd be vegan. So you just got to remember that they don't know what they're doing. Just forgive them. Don't blame them. Like, that's the world they were brought up in. That's the world we've been brought up in. Don't take it personal. I get, people say all kinds of things to me. Usually not face to face, but I get called all kinds of things, and ridiculed all the time, because I'm really, like, out there and putting it out there for thousands of people to see. So I expect a certain amount of resistance, and that used to bother me, and I used to get angry. I'm like, nah, like, how can you say that? Don't you see what's going on? All right. And now I just stick to the facts. It's not about me. It's about the animals. It's not about this person really I'm talking to either. It's just about, you can't force anyone into it. You just got to spread the knowledge, plant the seeds, and hope that they grow. And that's all you can really do. Don't beat yourself up about it. Don't let it get to you. Just know that what you're doing is in the name of justice for animals, in the name of justice for this planet. It's right. So definitely speak up and be their voice. But at the same time, understand that people don't get it, because, they've got, for me, I had 26 years of conditioning to break through, and that's what a lot of people have got. So don't let it get to you. Like, just try to understand that people are doing their best, and when they get it, they'll go vegan, and don't sever the lines of communication with those people by getting angry and making it about them. How can you not get this, and that? So like, look, these are the facts. This is what's happening. This is why it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I think that's the best you can do, really. Just educate everyone the way you wish you were educated. Be the vegan you wish you met when you weren't vegan.
Amazing.
No one wants to join the party if everyone at the party is having a bad time. If all the vegans are angry and can't handle the world, why would anyone want to go vegan? That doesn't look very fun. You got to be a healthy, happy, positive, thriving vegan.
Yeah.
That is cool. And so then people will want to know what you're doing. And you become more peaceful anyway going vegan. Like, I feel so much better, so much more confident in myself. I don't have that conflict inside of me that's a peaceful, non-violent person while I'm still contributing to this stuff. I'm not putting violence and torture into my body. I feel better. And in a lot of ways, apart from just health, but mentally, and I feel way better. I feel like I've come home, like I'm doing the right thing by myself, by my body. And a lot of people start feeling like that when you get the suffering. You don't put that inside anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, so powerful, James. I was just going to ask you too, like, about how you felt. So you already answered my question. If there's anything else, too, I want people to know where they can come find you and how they can help you and get involved. And, of course, like, if there's anything that you give away or help or, support people, please let us know.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I'm here for. Come to me. If you have any questions, you want any advice, you even want to chat, I'll even Skype if you want to do that. But you can email me at voiceless365@hotmail.com. Or just get me on the Facebook page or the Instagram or whatever. But yeah, because that's what I've been doing ever since I spoke for the first time on the Sunrise interview. It's been crazy, and people have emailed me from all over the world who want advice on how to go vegan or have questions and this and that, and that's where my time goes. So yes, if you have any questions, don't just not ask me or ask someone else. I'm happy to do that. Every vegan's happy to help someone else stop contributing to animal cruelty. So yeah, don't be afraid to ask, and I'd love to hear from you. So yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, James, for your time today. I mean, I just can't thank you enough. And everyone, if you want to check out James, go to 365.com and check
Voiceless 365.
Oh, I'm sorry. Voiceless 365. I'm sorry.
Said it like 10 times. I was joking. Yeah, thanks. Well, I've really enjoyed it, and thanks for having me on. It's good to talk about it and spread the message. I think that's the most important thing we can do.
Absolutely. All right, cool. Go rock on and spread it around, my friend.
Yes. You too. Spread the love. Yeah.